Hello. Hi, everyone. This is Stephen Judge, clinical naturopath and nutritionist in Sydney, Australia. I just want to talk about a topic tonight that's been on my mind for quite a while. Tonight's video is basically for anyone who thinks they may have pyroluria or pyrrole disorder, anyone who's been diagnosed with pyroluria and is struggling to navigate their way through treatment protocols, and understanding what pyroluria is and why they or a loved one have it. And for anyone who doesn't know much or anything about it too, I hope this video is informative in some way and that it sparks some questions and some discussion, as I'm sure I'm bound to ruffle some feathers and strike a chord amongst some of those out there who have pyroluria and practitioners and close friends in my own field who have pyroluria, or see and treat a lot of it in their own clinical practice. But that's okay. I think it's important to have an open, honest discussion that's respectful. And instead of blindly following something that you've learnt at some point and remaining to hold that view, even though in my case, over time I've come to understand and believe that the proposed development and treatment of pyrroles is way too simplistic. And many people are left believing that they're simply a slave to their genes and will struggle for the rest of their lives with this genetic condition. So if that's you, listen up, because I'm going to dive deep into what is really going on with Pyrroles disorder. This topic really intrigues me. I learnt about Pyrroles way back in the day when I first started studying, because I remember a close family member was diagnosed with it at some point. So I've had my eye on it for quite some time. I've helped many people with it over the years, but over time I've come to realize and personally believe and view that having pyroluria or Pyrroles disorder, it is a symptom. It's not this isolated genetic entity or predisposition that you're just born with and it drives all your symptoms and can be treated with one supplement or one compound. It's a symptom of underlying oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. And this oxidative stress and inflammation could be caused by so many different things. So let's just take a step back and just quickly recap what pyroluria is. From here on in, we'll refer to it as pyroluria, not Pyrroles or pyrrole disorder. So pyroluria is basically defined as a metabolic disorder that causes the body to produce excess levels of a chemical called pyrroles. So the chemical name for this is technically hydroxyhemopyrrolin 2,1, or HPL for short, but let's just call them pyrroles. So the body normally produces small amounts of this chemical, the pyrroles, but in pyroluria, in these people with pyroluria, it can cause an excess amount. And what happens is these pyrroles bind to the mineral zinc and to the vitamin B6. So the significance with elevated pyrroles binding to zinc and B6 is huge, because these two nutrients, they're involved in hundreds of chemical reactions in the body, namely neurotransmitter production, hormone production and regulation. They're involved in making our digestive enzymes and hydrochloric acid to ensure that we have healthy digestion. They're important for antioxidant production. They're extremely important nutrients. So what the elevated pyrroles do is they cause the body to have much higher levels of unbound copper as well floating around in the body, because the zinc and copper need to be in a very delicate balance and ratio with each other. So because the elevated pyrroles inhibits zinc absorption, the copper tends to rise, and elevated copper is what can be driving a lot of the symptoms people experience in pyroluria. So because zinc and B6 are involved in so many biochemical reactions, This is why when you Google an article on pyroluria and look at the list of potential symptoms, it's huge. To round up the major symptoms as I've listed in my own article on my website that I wrote recently, these are anxiety and extreme inattention, mood swings, depression, poor morning appetite, nausea, being histrionic or dramatic, having very poor stress tolerance, digestive issues, sensitivity to noise and lights, poor dream recall, but with a tendency to recall nightmares, poor sleep and insomnia, poor short-term memory, chronic dry skin, tendency towards infection and illness. So it's quite broad. But they're the key kind of grouping of symptoms that you should be looking for. So many of you may be able to relate. But older articles on the internet and information lists out there have an extra like 50 other potential symptoms, so which is kind of ridiculous. So if you tick a lot of these boxes, as thousands of people out there have, including myself in the past, you can get tested for pyroluria doing a very simple urine test, as this is where the excess pyrroles are excreted. And if you have a certain number of pyrroles in the urine, which has traditionally been at around 20, but emerging research is now suggesting this number should at least be 40. You may be diagnosed with pyroluria. And if diagnosed, you traditionally may have been put on a protocol with some form of zinc and B6 as a supplement in the form of a compound medication or lower dose nutraceutical company supplements. There's a bunch of other nutrients that are needed and given, such as manganese, biotin, in some people, evening primrose oil. It's a whole other thing. I'm not going to talk about all the different potential supplements and treatments, but the core of pyroluria treatment is at least supplementation of zinc and B6. So this is fantastic. I've personally witnessed dramatic turnaround in people's chronic long-standing psychiatric symptoms due to this supplementation. Not 100%, but in some people seriously improved enough to dramatically change their quality of life for the better. Others have noticed a mild difference. Some people have not noticed anything at all. Some people, in fact, have become worse. So where I start to have issues personally with this idea of Pyrroles disorder being diagnosed as a genetic disease, like it's way too simplistic. No one is asking why the elevated Pyrroles in the urine, like what's the underlying cause of that? So although practitioners, I've spoken with practitioners and, you know, we agree, we do see family members sharing similar traits and the symptoms kind of obviously being passed down the family line. It is important to acknowledge that there is no gene that has been identified technically. I was linked to a blog recently somewhere where someone claimed they had discovered the gene that causes pyroluria. So I was tracking this down, having a read about it, and it was the CC variation of the NBPF3 gene, the neuroblastoma breakpoint member 3 gene, which is a hormone found to be associated with the clearance of vitamin B6 in the body. This was based on a study of about 2,000 people who were found, the people with this genetic predisposition had lower serum B6 levels than the other controls. So that's nice, but it's pretty weak in terms of evidence to suggest that it is the gene that causes an entire genetic condition. There's no way that that conclusion can be made at all. And so this is my huge issue, because as a holistic, naturopathic, functional practitioner, I'm like a detective and I'm trying to uncover the multiple underlying drivers of someone's poor health. And this whole approach to pyroluria is very biomedical and extremely reductionist. I love the word reductionist. It just basically means isolating one thing to explain a whole complex idea. So reductionism, yeah, it's an approach to understanding something really complex that has many different factors by reducing it into like single parts. That's basically how conventional doctors practice medicine. It's one disease, they look for one thing, they want to find the one thing that causes it so that they can create the one drug to treat it. And then what usually happens then is the drug has side effects because the body is way more complex and smarter than that. So simply reducing someone, in my opinion, reducing someone and to saying you have a disease called Pyrroles disorder, which is genetic, an unidentified gene, which can be tested with one urine test and treated in one way. It's so reductionist, and it doesn't explain well enough why the elevated Pyrroles in the first place. It's just not good enough. So this is really important to understand, particularly if you're someone who has been diagnosed and has noticed a huge benefit of supplementation, but then tends to completely fall off the wagon at any sign of stress, or you miss a day or two of your supplement and you completely just go off the wagon. And you may improve, but you still tend to have quite fluctuating insomnia and anxiety, still getting pretty severe mood swings. There are clearly other things going on with your health that need to be addressed. It's not just as simple as this one biochemical reaction causing an upstream of effects. Like, that's almost as reductionist as trying to explain how and why antidepressants work. So again, as I mentioned initially, having elevated Pyrroles is a symptom of underlying oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. Just get that really embedded and let that sink into your understanding of what pyroluria is. It's a symptom of underlying oxidative stress and inflammation. So when there's excess oxidative stress in the body, it's basically an imbalance between the production of something called free radicals in the body and the ability of the body to counteract and detoxify their harmful effects. This is why it's important to eat lots of fruit and vegetables, because they're high in antioxidants to balance this all out. So if pyroluria is caused by excess oxidative stress and inflammation, then what can cause the body to create excess Pyrroles due to oxidative stress and inflammation? It could be one, or is usually a combination of things, which are most commonly, in my experience, heavy metal toxicity, digestive disorders, and gut dysbiosis, a balance of gut bacteria. It could be small intestinal bacterial growth or SIBO. I see that a lot in clients. It could be parasites or other infections. It could be chronic inflammatory response syndrome, which is SIRS, or mold biotoxin illness, which is becoming a huge widespread issue. It could be adrenal fatigue or HPA dysfunction. Stress is highly inflammatory, like to the body and our gut bacteria. Substance abuse, unresolved emotional trauma. You could be having issues with estrogen dominance and excess estrogen levels due to poor estrogen clearance. This holds on to copper in the body. There are so many potential factors at play. And trust me, most of the time there is a significant influence of the gut and poor digestive function or leaky gut going on. So I'm yet to meet one person who has Pyrroles, has been diagnosed with pyroluria, who doesn't have at least a few of these going on. I tested myself for Pyrroles back in the day, and I sat at around 30, and I thought, yeah, this is it. I've got Pyrroles disorder, and that's the cause of my issues. Supplements kind of helped, but not entirely. As it turned out, I also had cadmium toxicity. I was adrenally fatigued. I had pretty severe digestive distress and gut dysbiosis. But as I was able to address these things, as well as focus on wellness and eating a well-rounded diet, committing to self-care practices and exercise, and I had a practitioner who held me accountable to these things, I don't exhibit any of these classic Pyrrole symptoms anymore because I've treated the underlying causes. Like, I'm still susceptible to overloading my body with stress and, you know, exhibiting psychiatric symptoms, but I've generally quite well because I've dealt with the underlying drivers. So I've seen this in clients too, who I've worked with, and we've been able to address what's, by looking at Pyrroles as a symptom and taking a step back and going, well, what's going on with the other areas of your health? You know, you can really heal. So depending on who's watching this, my intention is not to overwhelm or discourage you, but I'm basically just pointing out that there's a number of reasons why you could be experiencing the awful symptoms you have. And it's fantastic if identifying pyroluria has helped, but to truly get to the core of it, we have to uncover the reasons why they are there. So this doesn't mean you need to then order a huge amount of other really expensive tests. To determine what tests may be appropriate, it really depends on your entire case history, your medical and health history, and a really good timeline of the events in your life and timeline of any significant health challenges or symptoms that you've experienced in your lifetime, because this can give you a clue to when and how you became. And with knowing all that information, tests and treatments can really be prioritized by trying to uncover the underlying cause. So this is why I titled my recent blog post, A Holistic Approach to Treating Pyrroles Disorder, because a holistic approach looks at the whole person, mind, body, spirit, looks at the whole entire picture of why someone has high Pyrroles, which is basically a deficiency in zinc and B6. I watch way too many people be diagnosed with Pyrroles by a doctor or a naturopath based on a urine test, sometimes zinc and copper bloods as well, and are given huge doses of zinc and B6 and other minerals. And although it may help initially, it can really throw out our biochemistry if you're on it for too long. People stay on these for years without any further testing or follow-up. Some people even supplement with zinc at such a high dose that they become copper deficient. And that just creates a whole other set of problems, including iron deficiency. So it's really not as simple and easy as it's been made out to be. And trust me, I wish it was. I could sit back and promote myself and test you the way I was initially treated and then diagnose you and send you off with supplements and say, you've got to do this for the rest of your life, see me every 2 to 3 months for a refill. Like, that'd be great, but it's just too easy. I personally can't do that. I must look deeper. I must investigate. There's always other things going on. So if you're someone with Pyrroles, I highly encourage you to look deeper into your health issues and uncover what else is going on with your health that could be driving the excess Pyrroles. Because an interesting conundrum is where I've seen people become disappointed because they have pretty full anxiety, mental health symptoms, gut issues. So they get the Pyrroles test and it comes back negative. It doesn't mean you can't be helped. It may just mean you don't have this picture of excess oxidative stress impacting your biochemistry. You still might have a zinc and B6 deficiency. And then the other way around, someone might have really mild symptoms and their urine test results are off the charts, like in the hundreds, but they barely have any symptoms. So, like, the urine test is not accurate enough to rely on for a diagnosis or supplements. So you have to really go off your whole symptom picture, an entire health picture, and your health timeline. And like, I completely understand, like, getting a test, the validation of that and the relief of a diagnosis through testing, but please work with a practitioner who doesn't reduce everything to Pyrroles, because there's always something else going on. Like, it's a symptom. It's a fantastic first step, but please look a bit deeper into it with a practitioner. I can't emphasize it enough, which is why I wrote a blog about it. I'll copy and paste it into the comments. In the blog, I was basically just trying to get this point across very briefly, that we should be looking at it as a symptom, not a disease. And please, can I also emphasize to reconsider posting for questions, specific help with symptoms and treatments in any of these Facebook groups out there for Pyrroles disorder. There's quite a few out there. I can only imagine the overwhelm of being diagnosed and wanting to know more and seek help. And so the idea of a group of thousands of other people who have this would seem helpful. I only just recently joined a few of these groups because I was curious to see what was going on in there. And I was shocked at the inappropriate and dangerous and awful suggestions that were being offered in there by people who are qualified, and anyone who is qualified ironically can't say so because that's seen as self-promotion, which is fine. But I was personally quite alarmed and shocked that when I approached a group in particular to share my article, because I just found myself repeating the same answers to people about what's going on with Pyrroles, what tests they should do, I was told that my article was, to quote them exactly, too well informed and will cause people to ask too many questions, and that well-informed articles won't help people. I was shocked by this response. I don't think it's very discerning to assume that people don't want to know more than they've been told, that people shouldn't ask questions and don't want to understand and learn why they're experiencing these symptoms and have such a vague diagnosis, and that people shouldn't be asking questions. It was just weird. It was a huge alarm bell for me. So I've taken a step back from the group. So please don't rely on Facebook groups for these health-related issues. Please seek guidance from an experienced practitioner. Most of these groups are run by people with no scientific, no medical, no health science background at all. Yep, so that's it from me. I welcome comments, questions, and insights. I know other practices out there may not agree with me on all points. That's fine, but please pop any of those comments below and let's have a chat about it, because it's a topic that I'm very interested in. And at the end of the day, my vision is for clients to heal all factors related to their health and for them to thrive. So yeah, I'll see you all very soon. Thanks everyone for joining at the end, and more videos coming soon. Bye.